There's a moment you've already lived. It doesn't matter if it was last year or 10 years ago. You changed. On the inside, you started to want more, to speak differently, to see things you couldn't see before. And little by little, with no fight and no warning, the people who had always been there began to drift away. The conversations grew rarer, the invitations grew scarcer, their presence grew shorter. You told yourself it was just life, that everyone gets busy, that it's normal. But deep down, you know something changed in the exact moment that you changed. The ones who stayed behind will swear they still love you, that nothing happened, that you're imagining things, but you're not. You grew. And growth, for those who are close to you and don't grow with you, isn't a reason for pride. It's a silent threat that no one has the courage to admit. I've watched this happen dozens of times, in families, in offices, in friendships that lasted 15 years, always the same pattern. And it reveals itself through 5 silent punishments. The third is the one your own family will carry out without realizing it. And it's the one that hurts the most, because it comes disguised as love. The first punishment, the cooling. It starts slowly, so slowly that you barely notice. The replies start taking longer. What used to be an hour-long call becomes a one-line message. The person who used to come to you to share everything now only shows up when they need something. And when they disappear, you're always the last to know. You feel it, but you can't name it. And when you try to talk about it, you hear the same line as always. Come on, everything's fine. You're just being sensitive. But everything is not fine. And you know that, deep down, before you can even prove it. Your instinct senses the change long before your mind accepts it. That's why you feel the distance, weeks, sometimes months, before you can point to a single piece of concrete evidence. Your brain registers hundreds of tiny signals, a tone of voice, a shorter reply, an invitation that never came, and it adds all of it up into a feeling before you even have words for it. That's why you can't pinpoint the day everything went cold. There was no single day. There was a process. And your instinct had been warning you long before you wanted to listen. You weren't being sensitive. You were being accurate. The second punishment, the translation. It's more subtle and more cruel because it disguises itself as affection. You achieve something that cost you silence, years, sleepless nights, and you share it. Carefully, without bragging. And the response comes back lukewarm. A good for you that never reaches the eyes. Or worse, comes the translation. You got lucky. It was about time. Imagine if it had been in my day. It's easy when you don't have the responsibilities I have. Each one of those sentences takes your mountain and turns it into an accident. I've seen this at the dinner tables of entire families. A person announces the best news of their life, and within seconds, someone finds a way to shrink it. Not with anger, with ease. As if it were the most obvious thing in the world. And there's a name for this. A psychologist from Emory University, Drew Weston, discovered something curious by observing people's brains. When a piece of information threatens what we believe, the brain doesn't use reason to deal with it. It uses emotion, and it rewrites the story so it hurts less. Weston called this motivated reasoning. In practice, it's simple. If your success came from effort, then the person who stayed behind would have to face the effort they themselves never made. And that's unbearable. So the brain solves it on its own. It wasn't effort, it was luck. That way no one has to feel small. Carl Jung had an older name for the same thing, the shadow. The part of us we don't want to see, and that we throw onto others. When someone diminishes your achievement, they're not talking about you. They're looking at their own shadow and using you as a mirror. That's why it cuts so deep when it comes from someone close. It's not the sentence, it's the discovery that, for that person, your best moment had to become an accident, just so they could keep sleeping in peace. The third punishment, the family. The one I promised you at the start, the one that hurts the most. Because it isn't a coworker, it isn't a friend from college, it's the people who raised you. The ones who shared a room with you. The ones who should be the first to celebrate. It's the mother who changes the subject when you talk about your progress. It's the brother who makes jokes about your ambition in front of everyone. It's the father who asks about everyone else's life, except yours. And when you feel this, the guilt comes. It's my family. They love me. I must be exaggerating. You're not exaggerating. The family works like a system, and every system hands out roles. The funny one, the responsible one, the troubled one, the one who'll never leave. These roles give the group stability. When you break yours, when the one who was never going to make it starts to make it, you don't threaten one person, you threaten the entire order. And systems, by nature, react to protect themselves from whoever changes the rules. I once saw a man treated like a stranger by his own family after he succeeded. There was no fight. There was something worse, a polite coldness. And Jung explained why. He said the shadow is not most dangerous in strangers. It's most dangerous in the people who love you, because love grants access. And access, mixed with unconscious envy, becomes the most intimate form of sabotage there is. But maybe what hurts most isn't even what they do. It's what you start doing to yourself afterward. It's you learning to share less, to celebrate more quietly, to hide the good news from your own mother, just so you don't have to see that look again. To walk into the family dinner already prepared to shrink your own day. You start to make yourself small inside your own home, just to keep fitting into a place that no longer fits you. And that's the cruelest part of the third punishment. From a stranger, you expected it. From your family, you trusted. And it's exactly that trust that makes you betray yourself first, shrinking, going quiet, apologizing for having grown, just so you don't lose the people who, deep down, had already started to leave. But now I need to stop, because up to here, I've shown you only one side of the story. The side of the one who grew, the side of the one who was punished, and it's comfortable to stay there. So I need to ask you a question you might not want to answer. What if, in this story, you weren't the one who grew? What if you were the one who stayed behind? Think of someone who drifted away from you, and you never understood why. Think about whether, at some point, it was you who gave the shorter replies, who translated someone else's achievement as luck, who disappeared without a word. I'm not asking this to blame you. I'm asking because both sides live inside the same person. Everyone has, at some point, outgrown someone and been left behind by someone. Hold on to that question, because the fourth punishment only makes sense after you've been honest about it. And listen, before the fourth punishment, if you've made it this far, and if this is resonating with you, subscribe to the channel. It's quick, it's free, and it's what lets me keep bringing you these analyses. There, let's go to the fourth. The fourth punishment, the invisible hand. Imagine there's an opportunity, an event, a referral, an important name that could change your entire year. And the person who could open that door for you, someone close, someone who knows exactly what you need, simply forgets to call you, forgets to introduce you. The information reaches you too late. And it always comes with the same line. Oh, I thought you already knew. You start to suspect. And then you think, no, these are good people. They wouldn't do this on purpose. And you're right, they wouldn't. On purpose. Remember that motivated reasoning from the second signal? It works here too, only in reverse. The brain of someone who envies you doesn't decide to sabotage you. It simply stops remembering the thing that would help you. The forgetting is real. The intention is not conscious. It's the brain protecting that person's place without them realizing they're doing it. Machiavelli observed this pattern 5 centuries ago. He wrote that the most dangerous blow comes from the hand that still calls you a friend. But Machiavelli described planned betrayal, conscious betrayal. What I've watched happen dozens of times is worse, because it's invisible even to the one committing it. And remember the question I asked you to hold on to? Here it comes back. Because maybe you've already been that invisible hand to someone, not out of malice, but because your brain protects your place too, exactly the way theirs protects their place now. The 5th punishment. The final silence. And then, one day, it simply ends. There's no fight. There's no goodbye. There's no final conversation that would give it all meaning. The name stays in your phone. The old photos are still there, but the person no longer exists in your life. And the strangest part is that, somewhere inside, you feel that this silence is more honest than all the months of pretending that came before. There's a way to understand this through the body. The neuroscientist Stephen Porges proposed a theory about how the nervous system reacts to a threat. According to him, when fighting won't solve it and running isn't an option, the body falls back on the oldest response there is. It simply shuts down. It's not anger. It's the nervous system deciding that someone's presence has become a constant weight and cutting the connection to protect itself. That's why the final distancing almost never comes with an explosion. It comes with silence, with absence, with a slow fading, until the person simply isn't there anymore. But listen to this. They didn't abandon you. They abandoned what you became. And that hurts in a specific way, because it confirms that this person was never able to exist in the world you chose to build. Jung wrote a precise sentence about this. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. He just never warned you that this privilege charges a price. And the price, almost always, is the people who only ever knew the version of you that fit inside their small frame. You didn't lose people. You lost people who were going to lose you anyway. The only difference is the moment it became impossible to hide. And that moment, almost always, was the moment you decided not to go back. They didn't punish you for failing. They punished you for arriving. Growth isn't lonely because you turned cold. It's lonely because your presence began to hurt the ones who didn't grow with you. Each of the 5 punishments, the cooling, the translation, the family, the invisible hand, the silence, is not the world punishing you. It's the sound of an old life saying goodbye, without the courage to admit that it's saying goodbye. Marcus Aurelius wrote a line that has crossed 2,000 years. What stands in the way becomes the way. They didn't stop you. They cleansed you of the company that would never want you at the top. So don't chase them. Don't blame them. They did what their biology and their fear forced them to do. Your job is not to convince those who gave up on growing. Your job is to keep going. If one of these 5 punishments touched you, think about who punished you, but also think about who you might have punished. Both sides teach. Since you stayed until the end, leave it in the comments. Which of the 5 hurt the most? The first, the one about family, or the last? The next punishment always comes. Always. The only difference is whether you'll recognize it in the moment or only understand it years later, when there's nothing left to change. This is silent dominion. And silence, as you've just seen, speaks louder than any argument.